Check, check, check. Okay, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. I wanted to introduce myself and some our city team members that are here as well as our partners on this project, DKS Associates. So, is it better now? Ooh, that's very loud. All right. I'm Audrey Starcy. I'm the Director of Public Works for the city. This is one of our very important plans for this next biennium. This is a critical plan for the city. We have not had a bike and pedestrian plan that was adopted before, so very excited for this work. Last year, we had our very first transportation master plan that was adopted by council. It was a very important accomplishment. So very thankful for council's support during that effort, and we worked really hard on that along with DKS. So this upcoming year with our bike and pedestrian plan, our TMP will be updated to include this work from the bike and pedestrian plan. So just wanted to kind of highlight some of the bigger picture things we're also working on. We also had our very first transit plan that was adopted earlier last year as well, and that was incorporated into our transportation master plan. We recognized when we adopted the plan last year, we wanted to spend some more detailed work on our bicycle and pedestrian connectivity throughout the city. So we're really looking forward to hearing from the community about how we can make those different modes of transportation a little bit better. With that, I do want to acknowledge our project manager for the city side of things, Lindsay. Thank you. She's our transportation manager, is managing this project. Please reach out to Lindsay anytime if you have questions. And our Deputy Director of Public Works is here tonight as well, Greg. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Antana Miller with DKS.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. We can just kind of run you through our agenda for this presentation. So obviously welcome. And we'll do a little interactive activity to get us started. And then going to go over what Audrey gave us a good introduction to what the plan is, but I'll go a little bit more detail about the plan's objectives and goals. And then give you a highlight of the schedule, what it's going to take us to get to a draft plan. And then we'll talk about some of the existing conditions, and then we'll look for ways that you can give your input. We'll open it up to questions and answers at the end. And we'll talk about next steps, and then we'll open up to questions and answers. All right. So introductions, I guess. So Audrey just introduced the city folks. I'm Wintana Miller. I'm a consultant working for the city. I'm the consultant project manager for this project. And we've got in the back, we have our outreach firm, Enviro Issues, supporting us as well. We have Lauren and Marisol and Augusta. So thank you for your support as well. All right. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide here. We have this little interactive thing. If you want to bring out your cell phones, people who are watching online can do this too. And if you go to either go to menti.com and enter this code, or you can use that QR code. I'll give you a sec to get there. But if you do that, then I'll give you a second to do it. We'll go and start. We'll ask you some questions. And why don't you just go ahead and get to the next one, because I think they can. Everybody, okay. All right, so just the first question of who's with us today. Where do you live? Assuming you're in the city of Sammamish. You can put a pin on the map. It's pretty general where you're putting the pin. I don't think there's a lot of detail, but just generally whereabouts you live. And it should automatically pop up there. So we got a couple. I'll give you guys a second to get used to the experience here. And because once I change the page, then I think it changes it on your devices too. So give you a sec to. No, it's a different one. So you can still do it down here, or again, menti.com, and use that code. It's all going to be on the top of every page, so you feel free to use that as well. I'll give folk another 30 seconds here, and then we'll move on. And you can always catch up if you hop on late. All right, Lindsay, next one. All right, how frequently do you walk or roll in Sammamish? Every day, love that. 3 to 4 times a week, maybe just once a week. once a month, maybe you never do. Get a sense of who we got here, what you're doing on these streets. All right, did I catch how many people did it the first go round? Maybe we had like 6 or 7. All right. All right. Pretty frequent. I like it. Next one. How frequently do you bike in Sammamish? Every day? A few times a week? Once a week? Once a month? Never? All are fine answers. Just curious. All right. All right. Oh, here we go. All right. Oh, we got up to 8 people now. I like it. All right. All right, let's move on. So what would make you more likely to walk or roll in Sammamish? Having more crosswalks, better sidewalks, better condition of the sidewalks, more connected sidewalks, better lighting and visibility, lower traffic speeds on the streets? What would make you more comfortable, make you walk or roll more frequently in Sammamish? Pretty good. Connected sidewalks is a hit. I like. That's good to know. Well, what's that? Next question. You're ahead of me. Are you ready for the next one? What would make you bike more in Sammamish? So similar answers, not necessarily the same ones exactly, but crosswalks, dedicated bike lanes, separated bike lanes from the traffic, connected bike lanes. Somebody already mentioned, well, we mentioned e-bikes earlier, so maybe more e-bike charging stations, better lighting, lower traffic speeds. What would make you bike more specifically? All right. Separated bike lanes popular. All right. Connected, dedicated. Great. All right. Next one. All right, well, when you actually are, again, specifically walking or rolling in Sammamish, where are you headed? Are you walking to work? Do you walk to go to the store? Other recreational destinations, or just no destination, just out for a walk, walking in your neighborhood, enjoying a nice day like it was today? Not a lot of work walkers, but a lot of recreation and a lot of it's nice to go for a walk. Great. Let's go to the next one. So biking, same question. Are you biking to work? Biking to go shopping? Just for fun? Or other destinations in the city? Or about, it doesn't have to be in the city, I guess. Biking might take you a longer path. All right. Similar responses. All right, let's go to the next one. We just have a couple more. Do you feel safe when you're walking or rolling in the city? Yes, pretty safe most of the time. Not safe, no, don't feel safe. Sometimes it feels safe, sometimes I don't. It's pretty common answer here, I can see. And then we're gonna ask you the same question about biking. How do you feel safe when you're biking in Sammamish? Same thing, yes, no, sometimes, depends on where you are. Do another second or two. I think we might be close to the end of the questions here. Was that the last one, Lindsay? Do we got one more? Okay, all right, well that was fun. Thank you for your input. It's kind of, I think one of the things we saw is a lot of you walk and or bike, and there's some things that we could do to have you do it more frequently. So I want to talk about the plan itself. You can go to the next page here. So as Audrey mentioned, this we're doing this bike and ped plan on the heels of the transportation master plan that was adopted last year. That plan was more, all modes. This one's just focused mostly on the bicycling and pedestrian facilities and what can we do to create a safer, connected, efficient bike and pedestrian network in Sammamish. More specifically, I guess we are looking to, I'd say create, but really refine or confirm the framework for how you evaluate bike and pedestrian projects. We can't do everything we maybe want to do, but how do you evaluate what bike and ped projects the city should prioritize? and actually identify specific projects. The goal is to get projects onto the city's transportation improvement plan that would then get funded and move forward in the 6-year plan is how that is currently structured. And then also looking at policies, so some policies around complete streets, really about how do you deal with all modes of traffic, thinking about how we should be dealing with e-bikes in the city, other things like crossing frequencies, crossing types, things like that. So high level on the schedule, where we're at. So we actually kicked this project off back in December. We've been working on existing conditions. We're going to go over some of that now. We were looking at those in the room, we're looking at the map earlier. And we're here today at our first community workshop. Our next step is to look at some of the projects that the city has already planned, and does our city already have a way to address some of the gaps that we might see in the pedestrian and bicycle network, so we don't have to recreate the wheel, right? We're looking for what else can we add to that their project list. And once we kind of have a sense of that, we're also going to be making some recommendations in terms of what type of pedestrian or bicycle facilities we might recommend based on the roadway classification. So for a local street, what should we see? What do we want to see? On a principal arterial is going to have a different recommendation than a local street would, and minor arterial, things like that. So come up with generally based on the roadway type, what do we want to see? And then we'll get into more specific project recommendations, and then work with the city to prioritize those, and then come back to you guys, come back to another community workshop, aiming for May of this year, to say, how do you feeling about those projects and that priority, and so that we can put that together into a plan that we'll take to City Council, aiming for this summer. All right, so existing conditions, what's out there today? So this is a map of the existing non-motorized facilities today. So again, where there's currently sidewalks, bike lanes, either on one side of the street or both sides of the streets, a shared use path like there is on 228th, the trail network as well, which is more off-street walking or biking trails, and crosswalks. So all these, we want to understand what's out there today so we can say, well, where are there gaps? Where do we not have facilities, and how do we want to start addressing some of those gaps? So if you go to the next page, you'll start, actually before where I was going, no, you're fine, you can turn the page, sorry. I was one slide ahead in my brain. So that was kind of the whole network was mostly what we were looking at there. But so as defined in the transportation master plan, there was a bicycle and pedestrian priority network that is really focused on arterials, so principal arterials, minor arterials, collector arterials, really to help the city focus their energy and focus the infrastructure, or the priority basically on those streets, is to provide the best connectivity throughout the city, right? So we can't do everything that we want to do, but maybe if we have facilities on these major streets, that provides a greater network and can serve the most people. So that's what we're looking at. We will point out that the 202 is shown as a principal arterial, but that is outside of the city limits, so it's not something that the city has jurisdiction over. So we're not really focusing on that as part of the priority network. So I just wanted to point that out because that may not be super clear looking at this map. All right, now we can go to the next page, which is where my brain was going, the gaps. So we looked at the existing structure or infrastructure and said, well, where are we missing sidewalks? So this is what we see. So the dashed line indicates sidewalks on one side of the street. So it's not like there's no sidewalks, but not on both. And then the solid line is no sidewalks. If we go to the next map, we'll see something very similar. Ooh, there you go, you're okay. This, again, bike facilities. So solid line, no bike facilities at all. The dashed line shows bike facilities, bike lane on one side of the street. One of the things I would point out is, East Lake Sammamish Parkway there is a gap, right? It's a gap for sidewalks and bicyclists, though it does have the trail right next to it. So that provides some connectivity, but we want to think about, well, what is the street, what should the street have, right? It is a little bit different, right? The trail versus sidewalks on the road, so it is still considered a gap. Let's go to the next one. We did take a look at safety. Collisions specifically, so this is from data we collected from WSDOT. These are collisions that involve, reported collisions, I should say, reported collisions to the police that involved either a bike or a pedestrian. And over a 5-year period from 2019 to 2023, that's the set of complete data that we have for those 5 years. Over the course of 5 years, we saw about 45 collisions that involved a pedestrian or a bicyclist in the city of Sammamish. 5 of them were serious injuries, and unfortunately did have a fatality in the city of Sammamish that involved a pedestrian just in 2023. So we want to pay attention to where these collisions are happening, see if there's any trends. We did point out here that 16% of those crashes occurred on East Lake Sammamish Parkway, and 20% occurred on 228th. 228th is a pretty busy corridor. So those dots are the locations of collisions. Yeah. So this is on that facilities map. So you can that was another thing we were trying to look at. Like, is there a trend of where there are collisions and where there are facilities? We have a question, but I know we have to get a mic. Can we? There's people watching online. We want to make sure people can hear as well. And we will do a Q&A at the end as well, just so you know.
Thanks. I was just wondering about are the collisions car or motor vehicle collisions, or are they any kind of collision?
So generally speaking, the collisions that get reported involve a car. So if a bicyclist runs into a bicyclist, unless they're seriously injured, they're probably not reporting it. So that's why I kind of try to say at the top, these are reported crashes, but they're generally involve a car, but these are not. But if it's a car and a car, I didn't put them on here. This is a car with a bike or a pedestrian. Yeah, we got another question.
Is there any data in terms of time of day? So if we look at the lighting situations, too dark somewhere and therefore more prone to collisions?
Yes, yeah. So the WSDOT data set generally has a number of data points, again, based on what's reported, but which generally has, I believe it has a time of day, lighting condition, that is reported. When the police gets there is when they put that down. So if it takes time, but we can see some of those trends, right? I think from my recollection, some of these collisions, particularly the serious collisions, were or involved a vehicle not yielding the right of way to a pedestrian. I believe some of them were, bicyclists running into a parked car. So there's a couple different things, and so yeah, we want to take this information and try to learn what we can from it for what we can do to improve and reduce collisions, obviously. Yeah, that was the existing conditions that we kind of wanted to run through, and one of the main goals of this exercise and this workshop is really to hear from you all about what you want to see or what's priorities to you. So we have a couple of ways you can do that. One, if you go to the next page here, there is a project site on the city's website. It's just a way to keep up with the project, of what anything new is going on. We have a schedule on there. Kind of talks. This workshop was advertised on the website, and ways of contacting Lindsay if you have questions in the future. And the next page, we have basically an interactive comment map. So we'll walk. I'm going to go through it here. Folks who are in the room, the paper that's on your table there, we'll link you to it. And you can also find this link on the project website as well. So there's a few different ways to get to it. I'll just leave it here for a second if you want to go to it now. So I'll explain how it works, and then we'll open it up to and kind of poke around. But the goal is to allow you to leave some comments on, I really want to see a crosswalk here. I want to see bike lanes along this street. I think there should be more bike parking. Whatever the question, whatever it is, it can be a general, not location specific comment, or it can be a very pointed at this spot. I would like to see this. I think the city should consider this. So if you go to the next slide, and we'll leave this little QR code on there, so if you can go to that, go to this site anytime you want. So there's two things. First, the first thing on the map, well, if you're doing it on your phone, the first thing you'll see is just some instructions on how to use it. But if you scroll past there, you'll run into the existing facilities map, which is the same one we have in the room today, and one I was showing you earlier of where the bike lanes, sidewalks are, et cetera. And there is a little toggle, the little layer thing on the corner there, and you can toggle things on and off in terms of like, I just want to see where there's bike lanes. I just want to see where there's trails, whatever. So the things like that. And then there's also a base map click, which is basically just what does the background look like? It's got color or not color, but just so you know what those are. Go to the next one. So then scrolling down, this is where we're looking for the input. So the first one was just an informational, so you can poke around and understand what we understand as existing facilities. This one is where you can start leaving comments. So the, let's see, at the top here, the comment category. So we've labeled, put categories of comments that you can put in. So there's like a pedestrian comment, a bicycle-related comment, a safety-related comment, or just other. So if it doesn't fit in a particular category, that's fine. And then, let's see, next to that one, there's a little, the question mark just gives you some instructions for how to use it. So I can tell you now, but the website tells you how to use this thing too. And then similarly, has that layers and the base map. The layers are limited on this map. I try to keep it a little cleaner for you, but we did put in those little purple dots on the map there. They actually represent requests that the city received in 2024 through the city's See Click Fix website that are specifically related to crosswalks and sidewalks and things like that that are relevant to our project. And so just wanted to make sure you all know that we've gotten that, the city has received that feedback and we're taking that into consideration as well. Sammamish has that great website that you can put things in at any time, but this is specifically for this project looking for these kind of comments. So if you go to the next one, so this is a little bit more about how you add things. So you can type in an address and they'll take you to put a point on the address, or you can just zoom in and zoom out. And at the bottom, there's the add marker. So that's how you add a comment somewhere on the map. Say, again, very specific location, or just you can put it in the lake and it's just a general comment. That's fine. We'll still read it. And that's it. Once you click on that, I don't know if we have another slide for it, but no, we don't. So once you click on that, again, you'll be able to categorize your comment and say this is a safety comment. Free form for how you put in your comments. It asks you for a name, just so it has something to display of who it came from. And I think there's an optional email address that you can add as well. But yeah, so this website will be up to receive your comments through March 21st. So you have about a month to get in there. And the goal, again, is for us to understand where the folks are interested in seeing bicycle and pedestrian facilities and what we can incorporate into this plan. Do you want to bring it up, Lindsay, just so folks we can do it a little live, showing anything else, if there are any questions about navigating, if anybody's been navigating it?
Sure. Would you like me to start with the city website?
Sure.
To navigate?
Yeah, city website.
All right. So this is our city homepage. And if you go up here to your government and scroll down to Public Works, and then if we scroll down the page under Public Works, there's different options, and you're going to go to Transportation Planning. And then once again, you need to scroll down, and then under Transportation Planning, there's Bike and Pedestrian Mobility Plan. So this is where we're going to keep this website updated with where we're at, different documents that we're able to release as they're getting through their final drafts. of reports, as we've discussed, the existing conditions, those aren't quite finished, but those will hopefully be up soon. And then our invitation for this evening, and then the schedule at the bottom. So continue to check back to this website as we'll keep it updated. To access the map that we're talking about, the link is right here. It's the interactive map for Social Pinpoint. And then, as was discussed as we were going through the slides, you first will see the existing conditions map, and we can turn layers on and off. Can zoom in, can zoom out, and then you can also change between the grayscale background or more the topography background as well. And then if you scroll down on the page, this is where the interactive providing your comments are. So we can here pick, here's the information on what type of comment you're placing. You can enter in an address specifically and it will zoom in. We have just a couple of layers to be able to turn on and off. You can again change your background to whichever your preference is. But most importantly is how do you add that comment? So you would go to add marker and go generally to where you'd like to place it. Again, you could zoom in and out before you click that add marker button. Pick your category, and then you can type in your comment. And then you click submit.
Perfect.
And it's recorded. And if it is a general comment, please don't feel like because you have a comment that covers multiple locations that you can't just leave one comment. You can type in this, you can hit enter, so you could provide a couple paragraphs to us if that's the feedback that you want to give us. And we will be reading and recording all of these.
And it looks like we've got about 23 comments so far, so thanks for those who have already gotten on there. I know that's been publicized through the city so far, and so, and you'll see actually at the bottom, those are the official requests that I was just talking about too. Those are the purple dots on the map, just so you know what's been requested, just a quick summary of that, again, through that C-Click fix last year. But yeah, I think that's our presentation. Do we want to go to questions or go to the next steps? I forget what we have here. Oh yeah, so next steps, just so we can wrap up. We are, like I mentioned, going to be looking at the city's current planned projects. So mostly it's things that are already in their TIP that they say, okay, we're doing a corridor project. We're going to add bike and or pedestrian facilities on this corridor. And like, okay, great, the city's on it. We don't need to re-identify those things. And then we'll be working on those recommendations for both facility type and specific projects, and then looking to do that project prioritization. Once we have that list, what do we start with? What's the highest priority, and how do we come up with that, working with the city? And then we'll be back for a community workshop in the spring, late spring. Around May is our current goal. So we'll going to do some work, and we'll be back to you not too long. And yeah, otherwise, I think we can open it up to questions for those in the room. Yeah. And we have a mic again, since this is being broadcasted, recorded.
Oh, yeah, yep. What's supposed to happen at the next workshop? The one in May.
Yeah, so the next workshop, I think our goal is to have some of those projects. Say, here's what through the process that we've gone through, what we're proposing to be prioritized that will go into the plan and go to city council for review. But we'll take your feedback first, right, before it goes through. And then hopefully if you agree with what we're prioritizing, or if you've given some comments, we'll be sharing that with council as well. Over here.
Have you reached out to any of the other communities? Seattle is clearly the Seattle area, greater Seattle area, is a bike town. There's no question about it. I lived here, went to university here, so that would be an area where there's lots of bikes. There's a couple of really serious bike clubs that would be, I think, happy to share their experience. These are people who go on, really long rides, sometimes in not so good terrain, some around the city, around the lakes. So it just seems to me that there's got to be other other cities or communities that have tackled some of the problems that you're now doing. So you might
Yeah, I
give that
know
a try.
as part of our existing conditions report, we did do a little bit of a literature review on some other bike and pedestrian plans, bike and or pedestrian plans that other cities have done, so like Issaquah and I think it was Redmond and maybe Bellingham. Certainly have looked at kind of what their kind of goals and policies and things like that. So trying to, not reinvent the wheel where we can and try to focus on what the city can deliver.
I'm just trying to get it, I'm really glad this is happening, and I'm also trying to kind of get a handle on the processes that are involved, like who's involved with this process, and is it like you're a consultant? Are you are you going to like come in and say, help us out, and then you're going to be gone, and then is there going to be, is there an ongoing structure? For example, a citizen advisory group or something to do with pedestrian and bicycle facilities.
Excuse me. I've been talking a lot today. It's a great question. So part of this important work will be incorporated into our transportation master plan. There's some policy components of the bike and ped plan and the projects. Those projects will hopefully be incorporated into the 6-year transportation improvement plan as funding allows, and then those are approved by City Council through the 2-year budget process. Those projects that don't fit into the 6-year window in terms of criteria would be added to our unconstrained list so that we can start to incorporate those, in the next 12 to 20 years. So some of that comprehensive planning. So the projects that would come out of this plan would be folded into our 6-year and long-term plans.
Is there some sort of plan to add more sidewalks around schools and school routes aside from suggestions from community members? Because I know that Sunset Hills Elementary School has a lack of sidewalks around it, especially on Issaquah Pine Lake Road, and Cedar Trails, the newer one, also has no sidewalks on one portion, and there's just no clear path for the other portion of the road, for the other side of the road. So is there any plan to add sidewalks and safe walking routes to schools?
That's another great question. This is something that, and we would love your feedback. So this plan will help with that, right? So we recognize that there are a lot of sidewalk gaps, as Wintana was pointing out, in the community. This will help us prioritize where the next sidewalk project goes. We do have a non-motorized program in our current 6-year plan. I believe the project this year is on Southeast 32nd Street. But some of the criteria for those projects do make sure that we can connect communities to communities, right? So from schools, provide better access to schools. One thing we look at is providing different access maybe between a school and a park or different regional interests that would be important to the community to be able to walk and roll there. So that's definitely a factor that we look at. Our criteria that we utilize right now is in our 6-year plan, and we're happy to have feedback on that too. But this plan definitely helps to help us prioritize what's the most important for the community. There are a lot of really great programs for safe routes to school, and we'll continue to work with the school districts on those plans too.
I would just add to that we have been in contact with the various school districts and individual schools, primarily in Lake Washington and the Issaquah school districts, letting them know that we've started this work, that we're having these community workshops. We got flyers out to them. We realize that this particular workshop is kind of coming as everyone's coming back from midwinter break, but we also meet with the school districts, as Audrey was saying, quarterly with their transportation divisions as city staff to just coordinate and have discussions. So yes, we're very much wanting to work with the schools for feedback and looking at priority locations as well.
Hi, I'm going to echo a couple of comments that were made already, but expand on them a little bit. I think it's really helpful to have this group and anybody else that's participating put in their comments, but before taking something to the council and putting it on a TIP or a TMP, I think the property owners who are adjacent to the plan changes need to be notified and have an opportunity to participate. And I think you would have a lot more participation if people knew, hey, there's going to be a sidewalk down our street, and a lot more support for the changes that are going to be made. So that's just a suggestion.
It's a great suggestion, and Audrey mentioned that we are looking at doing sidewalk on 32nd this year, and our capital project manager actually reached out to 3 homeowners that are affected this week and let them know there's going to be modifications to the grade of their, not only their sidewalk, but their driveway as well, and working with them on permitting that and the logistics of that. Great comment. We do take that into account, but we love that kind of feedback at all times.
So regarding the response on schools, I know that other cities in the area, including Issaquah, have implemented school speed cameras. Would that be one of the considerations to fund safe walking routes to school, as well as these mobility changes?
These are great questions. That's something that, as a city, we could consider. That would be something that council would need to consider in some of their work plans. That's one of many things. Usually, those are put into effect due to speeding, and so that's something that our traffic engineering team works with police to kind of keep track of speeding and understand that if speeding is a factor around schools currently right now. But you are correct that a lot of cities are implementing those cameras. That was the microphone or something. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh, we got one right over here.
The introduction of e-bikes has created lots of fun for people. I have one. You make it up the hills, but those who, let's say, younger children, not licensed, really don't understand that that's a motorized vehicle, and it can, because of its speed and maneuverability, it can really get you into trouble. I know that I lived in Bend, Oregon for about 12 years. They have lots of roundabouts. What they learned is that especially younger people, let's say 15, 16 years old, often have a partner on the back of the bike, and they don't obey the rules of the road in roundabouts. That's created quite a few problems. In fact, a couple of fatalities. So I think it would be important for the schools perhaps to realize that these aren't going to go away, but if you're going to use them, the rule in Bend was that it had to be pedal assist. It couldn't be throttle type. Basically, it becomes a motorcycle. And I go on 228th quite a bit. I see motorized bikes on that all the time. So it sort of begs a question as to when's the next accident. So the schools probably realize this, but maybe there could be some training programs.
Yeah, I think it's something that's come up. And so I think, as we mentioned earlier, and in part of one of the goals of the plan too would be to look at some policies. And so that is on our mind as to whether the city would adopt some sort of policy related to e-bikes, but we're not quite there yet. So, but thanks for that comment. I think, was there one over here or no? No? Oh, yeah.
I think it's also, regarding the e-bike comment, I think it's also important to consider that, well, the parents are in loop of, like, they're gonna give their permission or not give their permission whether the kid gets an e-bike. And I feel like that should be up to the parents and their family to decide that. And to also keep in mind that maybe they don't have other transportation choices. Maybe the lack of walkable infrastructure doesn't let them walk to and from places, stuff like that.
And we have a lot of hills here too. I wanted to know about scooters, and if, I don't know how they end up in cities, but is there anything that is happening with scooters? And also, well, I'll hold the other comment. Just more about school, safe routes to schools, and just there's ongoing enforcement issues with all kinds of stuff. And one thing is snow, like how snow removal happens, and if crosswalks are blocked with snow removal. I know we have to have snow removal, that's important, but like that's a consideration. And people parking in the bike lanes, and the kids are riding their bikes to school, and they have to veer out around the people that are parked in the bike lanes. So, okay, that's it.
I lost my thought. What was the first?
Those were all great suggestions.
I know. Was the first part was on the scooters? Yeah, sorry. Well, I guess I was going to ask a clarifying question on that. Are you talking about just personal use scooters, or are you talking about like the share?
Lime bikes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that has it come up in council of late. I mean, I think that could be something that we could look at too if it's something that the city is interested in. I don't know. So generally speaking, I think it is like a partnership between a city and that vendor. So it would be that, the vendor can't just come in and start doing it, right? So the city kind of has to partner, is my understanding of how that works. And so I'm not sure if the city has brought that up yet so far or talked with Kitten Council, but likely we can talk about that in our plan as well, but nothing planned yet.
I would add for the safety concerns, and Lindsay hit this a little bit, that we are in regular coordination meetings with not only the school district, but the Sammamish Police Department with our traffic engineering team. Anytime there is a See, Click, Fix or My Sammamish request that comes in, it is documented on what the official response is. They take into account speed, line of sight, vegetation, paint quality, which we do every other year. We paint half the streets one year and the second half the next. So that's usually not too much of a concern in Sammamish. But our traffic engineering team is very diligent, and their number one priority is making sure our roads are safe. And so I would just reiterate that we really take that into account and suggestions into account and try to make sure there's good, not only suggestions, but there's good engineering backing up to what we've done out there into the street and why.
Just jogged something in my head about the comment about the safety in the snow, but something that happens every week are garbage cans in the bike lanes. And it is a safety hazard for cyclists who have to veer out of the bike lane and into it. I don't know what there is to do about it. I don't think, there's probably a city regulation that says you need to get your garbage cans, but there's some people who just leave them out there for days at a time, and it's a dangerous situation. Where I live, there's a lot of kids that are going to Pine Lake Middle School on bikes, and they are going by there, and they're having to go, and that's a fairly busy road, and they veer out into traffic, and so it's not a great situation. It'd be great if there's something that could be done about that too.
The only thing that popped into my brain would be thinking about as we look into recommendations for facility types of like whether you have a separated facility that maybe could potentially lessen that likelihood that those are there. I mean, that's something that you could take into consideration as you're looking at facility types, is kind of what's particularly for the space on the speed of the roadway and things like that that can contribute to the lack of safety or the reduced safety.
So, about the garbage bins, that reminded me about something, and that is even if garbage bins are being put away the same day, they're still there for like the whole day. Is there some sort of accountability from Republic Services to not pick up garbage bins that are improperly placed, such as on the sidewalk when a parking lane is available or a planting strip is available? And if not, is there any plans for something to stop them from picking up garbage bins that are in violation of the law?
I've called in a garbage can that was just left there, and to Republic Services, they will come out and get it if it's considered an abandoned can. They have, they'll only do it like one day of the week, so it might sit there. But you have to identify the can. They'll wait a while to see if it actually is abandoned, so it's not like if your garbage pickup is Tuesday, you call them and say it's been there on Thursday, they won't come and get it. They want to know that it's been there for a little while, and then they might come and get it. They did come and get one.
It sounds like it's a combination of education to the homeowners, and bad behavior is bad behavior, and we discourage it, and we creating policy for bad behavior is a challenge. We could look at our contracts with our current garbage contract and evaluate if these changes are warranted and could be made. But I think a lot of it is just trying to remind the citizens and the people of how and what is the appropriate behavior and how they are incorporated into this community appropriately.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for the questions. Those were great. I just would encourage everybody to get on the website, get on to the comment map. If folks are sticking around and want to look at the map in person here, happy to do that too. But otherwise, thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate your interest. Oh, we do have a couple of the iPads here if you want to get on a larger screen than your phone to do the social pinpoint, the comment map. And like I said, just really encourage folks to give your feedback. I think we've already gotten a lot of great feedback, and just really encourage you to tell your friends too. And thanks again. Anything you want to add? Yeah.
Just thank you. We appreciate you coming into City Hall on your evening, so thank you for the time. I really appreciate the feedback and would love the feedback throughout the project, so thank you so much.